Okay, good morning, everyone, and happy Friday again. Welcome to the part 3 of our 4-part crisis marketing strategy series. We are very happy that we've had this partnership with Barr and can continue to offer these seminars to the CFHLA membership, with the last one ending next Friday. So today we will hear about the creative content that connects during crises, tips for how to connect with consumers through creative. So as always, I want to start with just a couple updates, and the number one update and most exciting that we have, which everybody should have seen via the news outlets as well as our CFHLA email yesterday afternoon, is that Disney Springs announced that they are going to begin a phased reopening starting May the 20th. So that will be the first area of our theme parks that is going to begin opening, and I think that just provides a lot of great hope for everyone that we're going to start getting these visitors back, even if that is local, and restarting Central Florida tourism. So we hope that there might be an announcement coming soon from Universal relating to the City Walk, and there's some type of phased reopening as well for City Walk. If you haven't heard, the Mont Millennia will open back up on Monday, so we'll have the shopping center starting. Additionally, as you know, the Orange County Reopening Task Force continues to meet on a almost daily basis. We have several CFHLA board members who serve on different groups there. The Bringing Back Tourism Visit Orlando has been working on their marketing, and that's going to include a lot of staycation targets for Central Floridians as well as the state of Florida to get people back and visiting our local properties. And then the Business Compliance Group is working on a consumer confidence seal of approval to get out to businesses that they can place on their windows, doors, websites, stating that they are in compliance with all of the necessary health and safety information. So now we'll move on and get started with today's presentation. As you can see, we have had then part 1, the crisis communications, part 2, the media crisis strategies, today part 3, and then next Friday part 4. Once again, that information will be included in today's back of the house with the information to register, and then again sent out via email on Monday. So we hope you, if you haven't joined us for the parts 1 and 2, and you're here today, we hope you'll join us for the conclusion of part 4. So now I want to go ahead and introduce today's presenter for our seminar, and that is Christian Wojciechowski. He is a creative director for Barr. So Christian, I will turn it over to you.
Good morning, everybody. First, thank you so much for spending your time with us this morning. It's truly greatly appreciated. I thank you. Yes, I'm the creative director at Barr. Some credentials: 30 years in the marketing world. I've been doing this for a while, and doing it with teams, names you may not know, the account teams, the strategists, the art directors, everyone you work with every day just makes this such a great job. Some of the names you might know: George Lucas. I worked with George Lucas for the Star Wars franchise on the gaming platform. Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods, worked with them for Nike. I was the design director for traditional marketing for their apparel lines. Bill Gates, 2008, 2009, I was the creative director on the Microsoft store. And Steve Jobs, worked with Steve in 2010 on the iAd platform, which was pretty innovative back then. I sold rocks door to door at age 4, taught me a lot about rejection. And I learned a lot about storytelling by sending a week-long ransom note to my first real agency job. To procure that position, I sent, instead of a resume and portfolio, I sent a week-long ransom note to the principal of the Richards Group. By the end of the week, he loved it. He didn't know who I was until the end. He called me that day and offered me a position. So that was really fun. We'll get started. I'll turn off the camera and we'll get going. So again, Barr, next slide. We're entering our 7th decade, which is pretty wonderful. We are the oldest, largest independently owned agency in Central Florida. We like to tout that we've seen everything. We've seen it all, and we've overcome it. And now this time, this theater is no exception. We have great partnerships, great clients, and we're coming through it with flying colors. The next slide, some of you may have seen this if you've joined us before. We're a full service agency. We have 4 pillars: research and strategy, media and analytics, PR, social, and of course, what I'll be talking to you about today, creative. I lead all that. So the topic, content that connects during crisis, creative messaging, crisis strategies. I truly believe there's a theory that your messaging strategy should be the same whether you're in crisis or not. So I tried to look up the word crisis to prepare for this presentation, and Webster defines it as an attack or disordered function. They define it as a significant radical change. You know, it's a great word. It's a scary word, radical change. The one I have issue with is undesirable outcome. And I have issue with that because the definition I do like is this decisive moment. There's a decisive moment, this defining moment during a crisis that you can have and help move your brand in the right direction. And what I want to do is give you a quick example of something that you can use to parallel for the rest of the presentation. So a lot of you know Alfred Nobel. He created the Nobel Peace Prize platform for humanity, education, physics, medicine. But what some people don't know is that Alfred Nobel had this decisive moment in his life, and that was when his brother died. And his brother died, everyone thought it was Alfred who passed away. So the obituaries, the news articles, the water cooler talk, everything was about Alfred. And he had this wonderful opportunity, unfortunately, to hear what people really thought of him, his brand. And people don't know that he invented dynamite. So he had the patent on dynamite, TNT, and he was called the Doctor of Death. So there was all this talk about how wonderful it is that he died. So he had this decisive moment where he wanted to take his brand from that point on, and he instigated the Nobel Peace Prize. And again, he's more known for that than anything else. So using that as an example, moving forward with brands, just like Nobel, you're hitting this decisive moment. You're in this global shutdown, and some brands don't know what to do. Global trade and supply chains are completely disrupted. Financial investment platforms are crippled. Government and public policies are almost being rewritten in bordering on martial law. There's a story this week about someone in Dallas who opened their salon and they were thrown in jail, and now they're out, and now there's this big thing about it. And I personally follow the markets weekly, if not daily, and there were circuit breakers put in back in 2008, 2009 that hopefully would never be used. And in the past 53 days, we've been using them weekly, if not daily at some times. So like Nobel, you're hitting this, this decisive moment during this shutdown. And if you go to the next slide, the question you should be asking, the Nobelian question to ask yourself is, what is your brand's DNA? What are the core values that you stand for? And that messaging, again, should be what you're talking about, whether it's good times or bad. And I want people to be reminded that it's not about resiliency in this point. It's not about bouncing back and recouping revenue lost later. It's about adapting to the future. And what I mean by that is your brand DNA. If your brand is irreverent, you should be bold. If you're funny, if you're humorous, your brand should make people laugh. If you're about empowerment, you should take control. And if you're trustworthy, you should educate. And we have a couple examples here. So the first is about empowerment. At Nike, we had a phrase, within every body, there's an athlete. And we love that play on words, everybody and everybody, there's an athlete. And Nike is just empowering people to do the same thing that they've been doing for years, to get out, to stay active. They have a Twitter feed where they're promoting all these YouTube videos where you can get out on your balcony, in your hallway, you know, in your bedroom. They're just asking you to stay active, and there's really no backlash because they're doing what they do best, telling you to just do it. And here's the Twitter feed where they're asking you to join them live on YouTube. And this is your chance to play inside for millions of people. But again, they're empowering you to do exactly what you've done your whole life. Stay active. Moving on to Coors, our VP of Innovation sent this to me as an example. Their core value is basically goodwill, camaraderie during this time. And it was very simple. The insight of we have to follow these rules, we have to stay inside, we're inside quarantined for 53 days, 54 days. And you know what? I just need a beer, and so does my buddy. And this whole campaign was simply about sending someone a beer. And I think we have a video example.
The Revolutionary War can be sucky, but do you know how George Washington kept his troops motivated? He made sure his men had beer. How about the Great Depression? Turns out that was pretty sucky too. But you know what they did? They called for an end to prohibition. Did it solve anything? Oh, of course not. But it did help them press on. Which brings us to today. Suckiness of historical proportions. Now, we know this won't fix it, but how about some beer? Go to @CoorsLight on Twitter and tell us who could use a six-pack, and we'll buy them one. Because if history's taught us anything, it's that sometimes we could all just use a beer.
So that was, again, just this insight of simply take control. This one I really love, Oscar Mayer Front Yard Cookout. The insight of, the cookouts were usually in the backyard. We have to practice this social distancing. So why not come out front? You're still distanced, but the idea of this simple cookout in the front yard, seeing all your neighbors, and again, I think we have a example here for you.
We may not be able to gather together, but we can grill together. Oscar Mayer invites you to take your backyard cookouts to the front. On May 2nd, join us for the Oscar Mayer Front Yard Cookout. Enjoy sharing a meal together, but safely apart, while we share 1 million meals with Feeding America. And every time you use the hashtag Front Yard Cookout, Oscar Mayer will donate an additional meal, up to 1 million more, through the month of May. Let's head out front and give back.
So again, with Oscar Mayer, this beautiful insight, their strategy of humor, of empowerment, taking control, getting out, doing what you need to do, but simply following those rules of staying home. Next one is humor. And this one, again, I love this one because I can see the creative team just simply coming up with this. Very simple, hotels.com. Again, there's travel bans, you shouldn't go out. Their campaign messaging is around Captain Obvious, which is just wonderful. I love it. And very simply shot, Captain Obvious is home and he's telling you to do the same. The hotels.com wants revenue, they want travel, they want bookings. But at this point in time, they're using humor to simply tell you to stay home through Captain Obvious. The beauty of something like that, on a side note, is, again, you could shoot that with the technologies of today, an iPhone. Of course, they probably had a professional shoot done, but the technologies of today, the iPhones are shooting 4K, something like that, a simple white background, and you throw it up on your Instagram, your Facebook, your social channels, real simple to do. Burger King as well, humor, everyone knows Burger King. It's home of the Whopper, but they have this now stay home of the Whopper insight tagline, again, which is very funny. There's these couch potatoes, they're on their couch, they're staying home, they're quarantined. And you know what? If you're doing that, you're doing enough for America and they're gonna salute you. And we have an example of this ad as well.
You to stay on your couch and order in. Do your part and we'll do ours. Order through the Burger King app and the delivery fees are on us. So staying home doesn't just make us all safer, it makes you a couch potato. And to help healthcare heroes, we are donating Whopper sandwiches to nurses. And we are also proudly supporting the American Nurses Foundation. Stay home of the Whopper.
And again, to remember, you know, the Whopper is using humor in this crisis, in their messaging, and there's really no backlash to this kind of thing because Burger King has been known, you know, their DNA, their core values, some of it is humor, and they use that to their advantage. They're exploiting that, and they're not getting any backlash. Next one, again, really great. I love it. Charmin, using humor. People were hoarding toilet paper. I don't know why, but apparently that's a commodity that people needed. Here on their Twitter feed, they had a little robot because of social distancing. They had robots delivering people the old TP. And on the right there, I cannot remember the college or university that this person was tweeting from, but he was just constantly talking about how there's no toilet paper, it's not 2-ply, and Charmin answered the request and they sent a huge yellow truck, just a truckload of toilet paper to his college. And as you can see, that kid on the left there, just, you know, he's like, yes, this is awesome. And again, that got millions of earned impressions simply by delivering someone toilet paper. This is funny. Now, I'm from the generation of Woody Allen. I could see Woody Allen doing something like this for New York because he's a New Yorker. But Larry David is pure California, and they're using humor from the office of the governor of California to simply say stay home. At the point of making this presentation, they were at almost 4 million views. It was a 90-second spot. It was him in his home. And again, he was just pontificating about how you shouldn't go out, stay home because he doesn't want to die, kind of thing. It was very funny. This was really interesting. So if you're old enough to know the "What's up" ads from Bud Light or Budweiser, they actually just simply repurposed an old spot, dubbed in the word quarantine from the original, and they ran it. Again, using humor. One of their core values, their brand DNA, is humor. And again, no backlash. And I think we have the example here.
Hello? Yo, what's up? Nothing, B. In quarantine, having a bud. What's up with you?
Nothing. Quarantining, having a bud. True. True.
What's up? What's up?
Yo, what's that?
Yo, pick up the phone. Hello? What's that? What's up? Yo, where's Dookie?
Yo, Duke. Yo. What's that?
You okay, B?
I'm good, B. Just quarantining, having a bud. Thanks for checking in.
So again, I'm over here laughing. I knew that spot when it first came out, but again, using that humor to their advantage, to their DNA, and it simply works. It was great then, and it's great now. Irreverence. So I was on the Pepsi account, and we loved whenever we got a Mountain Dew project because of that simple rule. There are no rules. So with Mountain Dew, they're very irreverent. And when I searched any kind of information about them, what they were doing what they usually do, nothing. They didn't. It's not that they didn't care, but being an irreverent brand, there were no rules. You know, the rule was they didn't even know there were rules to break. So Mountain Dew didn't have anything on their site. Their Instagram feed didn't have anything about the Corona V or what the pandemic was or going through it. The Pepsi parent company might have, but Mountain Dew did not. They didn't do anything. And again, that was true to their brand, and there was no backlash for it. People weren't upset that they weren't touting anything or measures that they're taking. They also had a couple of videos out there that went viral that probably got a couple million earned impressions of people when they went to get supplies. They were getting Mountain Dew. And there's a story of a couple trying to get, I believe the number was, it was a strange number, 553 cans of Mountain Dew, and they were refused at the checkout. So they started recording it, they posted it, and it went viral. Very funny for the brand. Another irreverent brand is Duluth Trading Company. And again, it's not that they're breaking the rules, but at this decisive moment, at this defining moment for them, they really are business as usual. You know, the hardworking man and woman, if you're home, what are you doing? You know, you're in the garden, you're gardening, you're doing your thing. If you're in the house, what are you doing? And people are building birdhouses, they're building bookshelves, and they're just touting what America is doing across the country simply because of the pandemic. They didn't call attention to it. They just talked about hardworking Americans. And then trustworthy. Again, this defining moment. I grew up with Heinz ketchup, and I love the fact that they're showing the bottle, but not the logo. So you know it. You know every time you walk in that diner, you see that shape of the bottle, you know what it is. It's been there your whole life. And the trustworthiness is now the fact that you've been there for them, they're now here for you. And if you go forward one slide, they had this $1 million giveaway. So to the diners that have been welcomed us for decades, we now open our arms to you. Help us by nominating your favorite diner to receive support. So they're asking now for your trust to give away $1 million to diners in need. And I think that was really a strong message from a very trustworthy brand. My colleagues and I have a game, I wish I had done that. And this is definitely one I wish I had done. This is for Jeep. And again, a very trusting brand with the loyalists that they have. Jeep owners, you know them, they wave to each other. They love getting out. They love getting out in nature. But a very trusting brand is giving you that message of patience. So with a little patience, the views will get better. And you see an ad where you're almost in the engine bay of this Jeep and you're looking out of the front grille, and all you see is not nature, but the door shut of a garage door. And the hashtag stay off the road. Again, a very simple message, a very trusting brand, and they're using their core value, their brand DNA to simply say, look, trust us, things will get better, be patient, the time will come when we can release and get out. This one, this was really, again, a really great, brings me back to my childhood with Coca-Cola. I'm a Coke guy, not a Pepsi guy. And we were going to show you this video, but this is one I'd like you to seek out on your own. It's about a 2-minute video and a very trusting message of America, and now the world, the globe, the human race. There was a lot of we're all in this together messaging, but Coca-Cola did it really well, where they were actually calling out people for being selfish when they were hoarding. They were actually showed the obituaries in this spot, but then they brought it around to kind of the glass is half full and it's going to be full again with kindness and hope. And it was a very touching spot. The music was upbeat. A lot of the music lately has been, downtrodden and piano stuff, but this spot really, touched your heart, this emotional side, because it's a very trusting brand. And you simply watched it, and the 2 minutes go by very quickly. So with that, I want to leave you with a quote from Dale Carnegie about these core values in your brand DNA, the resources. And he said, we can all endure disaster and tragedy and triumph over them if we have to. We may not think we can, but we have surprisingly strong inner resources that will see us through if we only make use of them. We are stronger than we think. And I think that's really important. If you only make use of them, your resources are your assets, and your assets are those brand core values that you value, that you police, and that's your brand DNA in the messaging, again, if it's a good time or in bad. So giving you a couple more little examples before we go, Skechers. There are brands out there where their DNA is safety, and that's Volvo. They're not a car company, they're a safe company. There's brands out there that bring you connections, and that's Facebook. There's brands out there that bring you value, and that's Walmart. Skechers brought you comfort, And it just so happened that the e-commerce sales were up 250% month to month, simply because people were home, they wanted to be comfortable, and they got a new pair of shoes. Very simple messagings. Nestle, of course, everyone loves walking into a house and smelling that fresh baked bread, those chocolate chip cookies. And Nestle's quarterly report was 30% increase in online sales. And again, simply because people were home and they touted the idea of this homemaker, the home smell of chocolate chip cookies. And of course, their chocolate chips sales were through the roof. Same with food. Again, I think people had the fatigue in cooking every night. So Chipotle saw a rise in their deliveries, which was great. Video games, I love this. I used to be a gamer, then I had kids. So the video game sales, hardware, software, accessories, game cards were up 35%, almost $1.6 billion in March alone, which is insane numbers. But again, the messaging was simply, we're entertainment companies. And if you're home, the entertainment for you of your entertainment of choice is video games. The video game sales, all those brand categories were up close to 35%. Again, simply because you're home, you have nothing to do, and you need entertainment. The interesting partnership with that, with gaming, was Denny's. So Denny's jumped on that 1.6 billion and became a gamer. They had their screen name was Denny's 24/7. They were on PS4 and Xbox One. And they were in there with you, just like every other young kid or girl playing games. They would give you codes and discounts if you beat them or if you interacted with them, and they jumped on that opportunity. Again, no backlash because you're all gamers, and it was just very natural. It was in your DNA. So in summary, it really comes down to that defining moment, that decisive moment, your Nobelian moment of where you want to be with your brand. So if there's anything you need to take away for your brands, is to simply embrace those critical moments, embrace that crisis, knowing that any message you give should be in good or bad, and use that to define your core values and police them. And I think that is it. We're going to open it to questions and discussions. Excuse me. I think we have a question here. How do I determine my brand's DNA and core values? How do I determine my brand's DNA and core values? To me, it's simple. It's a simple question of, it's not what you do, but why you do it. That's an interesting start, a little game you can play internally. It's not what you do, it's why you do it. So the examples I give on that are Apple. So Apple, it's not what they do. What they do is sell computers. Why they do it? They want to challenge the status quo. So Steve Jobs and Wozniak wanted to challenge the status quo with technology, and they happened to make a computer. They could have made an MP4 player, again, which they did. They could have made a credit card, which they did. They could be a bank, basically they are. You think about, would you ever get a credit card from Dell, right, or Gateway? You would never think to do that, but you have no problem getting a credit card from Apple, which is Apple Pay. So they're challenging. It's a technology company that challenges the status quo, and it worked for them. So the question is, why are you doing it? Not what you're doing, but why. I do have Tesla. Yeah, I have another example of Tesla. Elon Musk was quoted as saying they're a technology company that focuses on maximizing life's enjoyment. He never calls his company a car company. He talks about it simply being a technology company, maximizing life's enjoyment. So again, writing that DNA statement, writing those core values down as to why you're doing what you do instead of what you're doing. I think there was another question here. Do you have a travel industry or hotel example you can share? Yeah, I think I really like hotels.com. We shared that earlier in the presentation. Real simple, clean, and again, it's taking that almost that risk. It's that defining moment. It's hotels.com. They love bookings. They want travel, but they know at this time they can't tout it, you know, and they simply use Captain Obvious to simply say, stay home. I think that was really brilliant. I have another question here. About budgets, right? I don't have a big production budget. How can I be out there like these brands were? I think what I personally love is the idea of the technology and where it's been and where it's going. If you have any rate of you know, increased technology rate at all from where we were 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 20 years ago to where we are now, your iPhone can shoot video. Some iPhones, I think the Google phone, the new iPhones shoot 4K. So you can actually shoot TV spots. The camera itself for photography, for stills, very cheap, very, and again, I go back to the hotels.com. It was Captain Obvious on a chair with a white background. Very simple, very clean. It's just getting creative with the budgets that you do have. I think there's one more question. How can I use this to help me get back into the workforce? You know, what's interesting is I truly believe people are brands. So you can brand yourself. I know the people here at work, I look at them and they have their brands. I'm sure you know of people who, you know, the car they drive, you know, the food they eat, you know, the smell they have, you know, they are brands. So I would encourage people to look even at themselves and have that decisive moment, that defining moment, like that Nobelian moment of who you are as a brand and promote yourself. And I think that's all the questions I have. Yeah, I think that's all the questions I have. So thank you so much again for your time. I know your time is valuable, and I really, on behalf of Barr, we really, really appreciate you spending your morning with us.
And I just want to thank Christian again and Barr for these seminars and today's information. And just as your final reminder, we do have part 4, the final part of this series next Friday. So make sure to register for that. And we look forward to then seeing you next week. Thank you.